Jake Miller wiped his hands on an old rag and looked at the empty garage around him. The place felt too quiet. 3 months ago, he had 5 ships waiting for repairs. Now he had none. The big repair shops in the city were taking all his business. They had fancy equipment and fast service. Jake had only his tools and his experience. The rain started falling outside. Jake listened to it hit the metal roof of his garage. He lived on the edge of New Terra Colony, far from the busy city center. Most days, he liked the peace and quiet. Today, it just reminded him how alone he was. Jake was 42 years old. He had been fixing ships since he was 16. His father taught him everything about engines and electrical systems. When his father died 5 years ago, Jake took over the garage. Business was good then. Now, everything was changing. He walked to the small office in the corner of the garage. The desk was covered with unpaid bills. The rent was due next week. Food was getting expensive. Jake wondered if he should sell the garage and find work in the city. The thought made his stomach hurt. This place was his home. Thunder crashed outside. Jake looked out the window and saw something strange. A bright light was falling from the sky. It was not lightning. The light was moving in a weird pattern, like a damaged bird trying to fly. Jake grabbed his coat and ran outside. The rain hit his face hard. He could see the light clearly now. It was a small ship, and it was in trouble. Smoke was coming from its engines. The ship was spinning as it fell. The ship hit the ground about 200 yards from Jake's garage. It made a loud crash and slid across the rocky ground. Sparks flew everywhere. When it finally stopped, Jake could see green liquid leaking from the bottom. Jake ran toward the crashed ship. His boots splashed through puddles of mud and water. As he got closer, he could see the damage. The ship's hull was cracked. One wing was completely broken off. The green liquid was spreading across the ground. The ship was small, maybe 20 feet long. Jake had never seen anything like it. The metal was smooth and curved in strange ways. There were no sharp edges anywhere. It looked more like a living thing than a machine. Jake found what looked like a door. It was partially open and bent. He could hear sounds coming from inside. Someone was hurt. Jake pushed against the door, but it would not move. He ran back to his garage and got a crowbar. It took 10 minutes to open the door wide enough to get inside. The inside of the ship was dark. Jake used the flashlight on his phone to look around. The walls were covered with strange symbols that glowed softly. Everything was curved and smooth, just like the outside. Jake found the pilot in the front of the ship. At first, he thought it was a person wearing a strange suit. Then he realized it was not human at all. The pilot was tall and thin, with long arms and legs. Its skin was pale blue and seemed to shimmer in the light. Its head was larger than a human head, with big eyes that were closed. The alien was breathing, but barely. Its legs were twisted in a way that looked very wrong. Green blood was on its clothes and on the seat. Jake had never seen an alien before, but he knew this one was dying. Jake carefully touched the alien's shoulder. It opened its eyes. They were completely black, like looking into deep space. The alien tried to speak, but only strange sounds came out. Then it pointed to a small device on the wall of the ship. Jake grabbed the device. As soon as he touched it, it started glowing. A voice came from it, speaking in clear English. "Thank you for helping me," the voice said. It sounded tired and scared. "I am Crix. I am hurt very badly." Jake looked at the alien. "Can you understand me?" he asked. "Yes. This device translates our words. I need medical help. My legs, I cannot feel them." Jake could see that Crix's legs were badly injured. "I will call for help," he said. "There is a medical center in the city. They have doctors who know about different species." "Please," Crix said. "I was carrying important things back to my home world, cultural artifacts from my people's history. Now my ship is destroyed. My career is finished. I will never fly again." Jake did not understand everything Crix was saying, but he could hear the sadness in the translated voice. "Let me worry about that later," Jake said. "Right now, we need to get you medical help." Jake called the emergency services on his phone. While they waited, he tried to make Crix more comfortable. He found some clean rags in his garage and stopped the bleeding as best he could. The green blood looked strange, but it seemed to work the same way as human blood. The rain kept falling on the broken ship. Jake sat with Crix and listened to him talk about his people, the Zephyrians. They were natural pilots, Crix explained. Their bodies could connect directly with their ship's systems. Flying was not just their job, it was who they were. My people, Say we dance with the stars, Crix said. Without the ability to fly, I am nothing. I am broken. Jake looked at the damaged ship around them. He had spent his whole life fixing broken things. Engines, electrical systems, hull damage. He had repaired it all. But this was different. How do you fix a broken life? The medical team arrived 30 minutes later. They were professional and kind. They had special equipment for treating aliens. As they carefully moved Crix onto a stretcher, the alien grabbed Jake's hand. Thank you, Crix said. You saved my life. Jake watched the medical vehicle drive away into the rain. Then he looked at the crashed ship. It was completely destroyed. No one could fix damage like that. But as Jake walked back to his garage, an idea started forming in his mind. Maybe he could not fix the ship, but maybe there was another way to help Crix fly again. Jake had always been good at solving impossible problems. His father used to say that impossible just meant no one had found the right solution yet. Jake looked at his empty garage and smiled for the first time in weeks. He had found his next project. Jake visited Crix at the medical center every day for 2 weeks. The doctors were doing everything they could, but the news was not good. Crix's spine was damaged in a way that could not be fixed. The Zephyrian body was different from humans, and the doctors did not have the right tools to repair that kind of injury. Dr. Amy Foster was the lead doctor on Crix's case. She was a kind woman who specialized in treating different alien species. She explained to Jake that Zephyrians had a special nervous system that connected their whole body to their brain in a unique way. Normal Zephyrians can plug their bodies directly into their ships, Dr. Foster said. Their nervous system becomes part of the ship's computer. But Crix's connection system is broken. Even if we could fix his legs, he would never be able to interface with a ship again. Jake sat with Crix in the hospital room. The alien looked smaller and sadder every day. Crix told Jake about his home world, Zephyr Prime. It was a planet with floating cities that moved through the clouds. Zephyrians were born to fly. They learned to pilot ships before they learned to walk properly. I was a courier, Crix said through his translator device. I carried important messages and artifacts between worlds. It was not just my job, it was my purpose. Now I have no purpose. Jake tried to cheer up his new friend. He brought Crix books about human engineering and magazines about different types of spacecraft. Crix was interested, but Jake could see the sadness in his big black eyes. Your people build ships very differently than mine, Crix said one day. Humans use controls and computers. We become one with our ships. It is like dancing. The ship becomes part of our body. Jake thought about this a lot. He went home each night and studied everything he could find about Zephyrian technology. He read about their bio-neural interfaces and their organic ship designs. Most of it was too complex for him to understand completely, but he kept learning. Jake's neighbor, Lisa Chen, noticed that he was working late every night. Lisa ran the small diner next to Jake's garage. She used to be an engineer in the military before she was injured in an accident. Now she cooked food and served coffee to the few customers who came to their quiet part of town. One evening, Lisa knocked on Jake's garage door. She was carrying 2 cups of coffee and a plate of sandwiches. You have been working too much, she said. When did you last eat a real meal? Jake looked up from the technical manuals spread across his workbench. He realized he was very hungry. Lisa was right. He had been so focused on his research that he forgot to take care of himself. I am trying to solve a problem, Jake said. My friend Crix will never fly again. The doctors say it is impossible to fix. Lisa sat down and looked at the books and papers. She could read some of the technical diagrams. These are Zephyrian ship designs, she said. Very advanced. What are you planning? Jake felt embarrassed. His idea seemed crazy when he said it out loud. I want to build Crix a ship he can fly, something that does not need a full bio-neural interface. Lisa was quiet for a long time. She studied the diagrams more carefully. This is very complex, she said. Zephyrian technology is completely different from ours. It would be like trying to mix oil and water. I know it sounds impossible, Jake said, but Crix saved cultural artifacts from his people. He risked his life to preserve their history. Now he thinks he is useless. I have to try something. Lisa smiled. You know, impossible problems are the most interesting ones. When I was in the military, we had a saying, impossible just means expensive and difficult. Jake felt hope for the first time in days. Will you help me? I will look at your plans, Lisa said. But I cannot promise anything. This is much more complex than fixing a broken engine. Over the next few weeks, Jake and Lisa worked together every evening. Lisa's military engineering background was very helpful. She understood advanced electronics and computer systems. Jake knew mechanical systems and how to build things with limited resources. They started by studying the wreckage of Crix's ship. Jake had gotten permission to move the crashed vessel to his garage. Most of it was destroyed, but some of the bio-neural interface components were still working. They glowed softly when touched, responding to electrical impulses. "Look at this," Lisa said one night. She was holding a small crystal-like device from Crix's ship. "This component reads neural signals and translates them into control commands. If we could modify it to work with limited neural input..." Jake understood what she was thinking. "Instead of needing full-body neural connection, we could design a system that only needs upper-body signals." "Exactly. And we could use human AI technology to fill in the gaps. The computer could handle the complex calculations that Crix's damaged nervous system cannot do." They worked for 6 weeks, designing and redesigning their plans. Jake used his savings to buy components from salvage yards and electronics suppliers. Some parts came from old human military drones. Others came from decommissioned alien ships. The design was unlike anything either of them had seen before. It combined human engineering with Zephyrian biotechnology. The ship would be small, only big enough for one pilot. The control system would read neural signals from Crix's upper body and translate them into flight commands with help from an advanced AI system. Jake worried that he was wasting time and money on an impossible dream. But every time he visited Crix at the medical center, he saw how sad his friend was becoming. Other Zephyrians had come to visit Crix. They were kind, but Jake could see in their faces that they thought Crix would never fly again. "In my culture," Crix told Jake one day, "a Zephyrian who cannot fly is like a bird with broken wings. We exist, but we do not truly live." That night, Jake worked until sunrise. He was determined to give his friend his wings back, even if it seemed impossible. Lisa found him asleep at his workbench the next morning, his head resting on the ship's blueprints. "The design is ready," Jake said when Lisa woke him up. "Now we have to build it." Lisa looked at the final plans. They were beautiful and complex, showing every detail of their hybrid ship design. "This is either going to be the most amazing thing ever built," she said, "or the most expensive pile of junk in the galaxy." Jake smiled. "Only one way to find out." Building the ship took 3 months. Jake worked 16 hours every day. Lisa helped when she could, after finishing her work at the diner. Some days, Jake felt like giving up. The project was more difficult than anything he had ever attempted. The hardest part was connecting the human AI systems with the Zephyrian bio-neural components. The two technologies spoke completely different languages. Jake had to create translation circuits that could convert human digital signals into the organic patterns that Zephyrian technology understood. Jake spent his life savings on parts. He sold his father's old tools and his personal vehicle to buy more components. Lisa contributed money from her diner earnings. Sometimes they had to eat cheap instant food for weeks because they spent all their money on ship parts. The ship slowly took shape in Jake's garage. It was beautiful in a strange way. The hull combined the smooth, curved lines of Zephyrian design with the strong, practical structure of human engineering. The ship was painted deep blue with silver markings, colors that reminded Jake of Crix's skin. Jake visited Crix every few days, but he did not tell him about the ship. He wanted it to be a surprise. Also, he was afraid that if the ship did not work, Crix would be even more disappointed. Crix was getting stronger physically, but his spirit was getting weaker. The doctors had moved him to a long-term care facility. He spent most of his time looking out the window at the sky. Sometimes Jake found him crying. Those Zephyrians cried differently than humans. Their tears were silver and seemed to glow. "I dream about flying," Crix told Jake one day, "but when I wake up, I remember that I am broken. It would be better if I could forget what flying felt like." Jake's heart hurt when he heard this. He worked even harder on the ship that night. The most complex part was the control system. Traditional Zephyrian ships required the pilot to connect their entire nervous system to the ship's bio-neural network. Jake's design used only upper-body neural connections. The AI computer would interpret these limited signals and control the ship's movement. Lisa programmed the AI using her military engineering knowledge. The computer had to learn Crix's specific neural patterns and translate them into flight commands. It was like teaching the ship to understand Crix's thoughts. "The AI needs to be very smart," Lisa explained to Jake. "It has to fill in the missing information from Crix's damaged nervous system, but it also has to respond instantly to his commands." If there is any delay, the ship will not feel natural to him. Jake worried about this constantly. Zephyrians could feel even tiny delays in their ship's responses. If the AI was too slow, Crix would know immediately that something was wrong. Finally, after 3 months of work, the ship was complete. Jake stood back and looked at it. The ship was 25 feet long and 12 feet wide. It had elegant wings that curved like a bird's. The cockpit was designed specifically for Crix's body, with neural interface points positioned where his remaining functional appendages could reach them. Jake was proud of what they had built, but he was also terrified. What if it did not work? What if he had wasted 3 months and all his money on a useless machine? What if he made Crix's sadness even worse? Lisa could see Jake's fear. "We have done everything we can," she said. "The ship is as ready as it will ever be. Now we have to test it." Jake decided to test the ship himself first. The control system was designed for Zephyrian physiology, but Lisa had created a temporary human interface. Jake climbed into the cockpit and connected the neural sensors to his head and arms. The ship's systems came alive around him. Lights glowed softly on the curved walls. Jake could feel the ship's AI trying to understand his human neural patterns. It was a strange sensation, like having a conversation without words. Jake activated the engines. The ship lifted off the ground smoothly and quietly. Through the cockpit window, he could see his garage getting smaller below him. The ship responded to his thoughts almost instantly. When he thought about turning left, the ship turned left. When he wanted to go faster, the engines increased power. Jake flew the ship around the colony for 20 minutes. It handled perfectly. The AI was learning his control patterns and making the flight smoother with every moment. When Jake landed back at his garage, he was smiling for the first time in weeks. "It works," he told Lisa. "The ship actually works." Now came the hardest part. Jake had to tell Crix about the ship without getting his hopes up too much. Jake went to the care facility the next morning feeling nervous. Crix was in his usual spot by the window. He looked tired and sad. "Hello, my friend," Crix said. "How is your garage business?" "Actually," Jake said, "I have been working on something special. Something for you." Crix looked confused. "For me? I do not understand." Jake took a deep breath. "Crix, what if I told you that I built you a ship that you could fly despite your injuries?" Crix stared at Jake for a long time. "That is impossible," he said finally. "I cannot interface with ship systems anymore. My bio-neural pathways are destroyed." "What if you did not need full bio-neural connection?" Jake asked. "What if the ship could understand your thoughts using only partial neural signals?" Crix's black eyes grew wide. "You cannot be serious." "I am completely serious. The ship is in my garage right now. It is designed specifically for your body and your limitations. Will you come and see it?" Crix was quiet for several minutes. Jake could see hope and fear fighting in his expression. "If this does not work," Crix said slowly, "it will break my heart completely. I do not know if I can survive that kind of disappointment." "I understand," Jake said. "But what if it does work? What if you can fly again?" That afternoon, Jake and Lisa transported Crix to the garage in a medical vehicle. Crix used a floating wheelchair that the doctors had provided. When they opened the garage doors and Crix saw the ship, he gasped. The ship was even more beautiful than Jake had imagined. In the afternoon sunlight, the blue hull seemed to glow. The curved lines looked both alien and familiar at the same time. "You built this for me," Crix whispered. "Lisa and I built it together," Jake said. "Every part is designed for your specific needs." Crix floated closer to the ship in his wheelchair. He reached out and touched the hull with one of his long, thin hands. The ship's bio-neural components responded to his touch, glowing softly. "It recognizes me," Crix said with wonder in his voice. "I can feel it trying to connect with my neural patterns." Jake helped Crix into the cockpit. The seat adjusted automatically to fit his body. The neural interface points were exactly where Crix could reach them with his functional limbs. "The AI will help you," Jake explained. "It will interpret your neural signals and control the parts of the ship that you cannot directly interface with. You still pilot the ship, but the computer fills in the missing connections." Crix placed his hands on the neural interface points. The ship immediately came alive around him. Lights flowed along the walls in patterns that matched Zephyrian bio-neural designs. The engines hummed softly. "I can feel it," Crix said, his voice full of excitement. "I can feel the ship's heart beating. This is impossible, but it is real." Crix lifted the ship off the ground. It rose smoothly and gracefully, responding to his thoughts. Through the garage windows, Jake and Lisa watched as their friend experienced the joy of flight for the first time since his accident. Crix flew the ship in slow, elegant circles around the garage area. Even with limited neural connection, he moved the ship like it was part of his body. The AI was working perfectly, translating his thoughts into flight commands without any noticeable delay. When Crix finally landed the ship, he was crying those strange silver tears. But these were tears of joy. "You have given me my life back," Crix said to Jake and Lisa. "I thought I would never dance with the stars again. But now I am truly alive once more." Word about Jake's ship spread quickly through New Terra Colony. Other disabled pilots, both human and alien, came to see what Jake had built. Some had lost limbs in accidents. Others had nerve damage from diseases. All of them had been told they would never fly again. Jake was happy to show them the ship, but he told everyone the same thing. "I built this specifically for Crix. Each pilot would need a different design based on their specific injuries and species." Still, the visitors kept coming. A human pilot named Ben Rodriguez had lost both legs in a mining accident. A Centaurian trader called Vex had damage to her neural implants from an electrical storm. They all wanted to know if Jake could build them ships too. Jake felt overwhelmed. He was just a small-town mechanic. He had never planned to become famous. He just wanted to help his friend. 2 weeks after Crix's first flight, something happened that changed everything. Crix was practicing advanced maneuvers in his ship when the colony's long-range sensors detected something unusual. The ship's energy signature was unlike anything they had seen before. The colony's defense coordinator, a stern woman named Captain Sandra Hayes, came to Jake's garage the next day. She brought a team of technical specialists with her. "Mr. Miller," Captain Hayes said, "we need to talk about the ship you built." Jake felt nervous. "Is there a problem? Crix has all the proper flight permits. The ship passed all safety inspections." "The ship itself is not the problem," Captain Hayes said. "The problem is that our sensors cannot track it properly. When your friend flies, his ship appears and disappears from our screens in ways that should be impossible." Lisa stepped forward. "What exactly are you saying?" "I am saying that Mr. Miller has accidentally created a ship with advanced stealth capabilities. The combination of human and Zephyrian technologies has produced something our sensors cannot consistently detect." Jake stared at the captain. "That was not intentional. I was just trying to make the ship work for Crix's disabilities." "I believe you," Captain Hayes said. "But intentional or not, you have created something very valuable. The Galactic Defense Coalition has been looking for new ways to counter stealth raiders and fast-attack ships. Your design could be exactly what we need." That evening, a massive military cruiser appeared in orbit around New Terra Colony. The ship was called the GDC Vigilant, and it was one of the most advanced vessels in the Coalition fleet. Jake had never seen anything so large and intimidating. The next morning, the cruiser's commanding officer came to Jake's garage. Captain Alex Rodriguez was a tall, confident man with silver hair and sharp eyes. He was accompanied by a full team of military engineers and analysts. "Mr. Miller," Captain Rodriguez said, "I have traveled a long way to see what you have built. My technical team has been studying the sensor data from your ship's test flights. What you have created is remarkable." Jake felt uncomfortable with all the attention. "I just wanted to help my friend fly again." "And you succeeded admirably," the captain said. "But you also created something else. Your ship's stealth characteristics are not accidental. The way you combined human AI systems with Zephyrian bio-neural technology has produced a unique electromagnetic signature that confuses most detection systems." Captain Rodriguez walked around Jake's ship, examining every detail. His engineers took measurements and recorded everything they saw. "The Coalition is facing increasing threats from raiders using advanced stealth technology," the captain continued. "Our heavy cruisers are too slow to catch them. Our fast attack ships are not stealthy enough to surprise them, but this could change everything." Jake began to understand what the captain was suggesting. "You want me to build ships for the military? I want to offer you a contract that will make you very wealthy," Captain Rodriguez said. "The Coalition will pay you 50 million credits to mass-produce your design. We also want to hire you as a senior engineer in our research and development division. Your friend Crix would be offered a position as a test pilot and tactical consultant." Jake looked at Lisa and Crix. 50 million credits was more money than he had ever imagined. He could build the finest garage in the galaxy. He could hire hundreds of workers. He could help every disabled pilot who came to him for assistance. But something about the offer made Jake uncomfortable. "What would you use these ships for?" he asked. "Defense," Captain Rodriguez said quickly. "Protection of shipping lanes, anti-piracy operations, rescue missions in dangerous areas." "But they could also be used for attacks," Jake said, "for stealth raids and surprise assaults." The captain's expression became more serious. "Mr. Miller, the galaxy is not a peaceful place. Sometimes the best defense requires the ability to strike first." Jake spent the rest of the day thinking about the offer. Lisa and Crix were both excited about the possibilities. Lisa saw it as a chance to return to the kind of advanced engineering work she had loved in the military. Crix was thrilled about the idea of becoming a coalition test pilot. "This is an amazing opportunity," Lisa said. "You could help disabled pilots all over the galaxy, and the military applications could save thousands of lives." Crix agreed. "My people have a saying, a gift shared is a gift multiplied. Your kindness to me could become kindness to many others." But Jake could not stop thinking about what his father had always told him. "Tools can be used to build or to destroy," his father had said. "The person who makes the tool is responsible for how it gets used." Jake had built his ship out of love and compassion. He wanted to help Crix regain his independence and joy. Now, the military wanted to turn his creation into a weapons system. That night, Jake could not sleep. He walked around his garage, looking at the ship he had built with his own hands. It was beautiful and elegant, designed to give freedom to someone who had lost hope. How could something so positive become something destructive? Jake thought about all the disabled pilots who had visited him. They needed help, not weapons. They needed hope, not military contracts. The next morning, Captain Rodriguez returned with official contract documents. The papers were thick and complex, full of legal language that Jake did not understand. But the basic terms were clear. Jake would give the Coalition exclusive rights to his ship design in exchange for 50 million credits and prestigious jobs for himself, Lisa, and Crix. "This is a generous offer, Mr. Miller," Captain Rodriguez said, "but it will not remain available forever. The Coalition needs to know your decision soon." Jake looked at the contract documents. His signature would change everything. He would become rich and famous. He would have resources to help many people, but he would also become a weapons manufacturer. "Can I have some time to think about this?" Jake asked. Captain Rodriguez nodded. "You have 24 hours. After that, the Coalition will have to explore other options." Jake knew what that meant. If he refused the offer, the military would find other ways to get his technology. They might force him to cooperate, or they might simply copy his design without his permission. Jake spent the next day talking with Lisa and Crix. Both of them thought he should accept the offer. The money and opportunities were too good to refuse. But Jake kept thinking about his original motivation. He had not built the ship to become rich or famous. He had built it to help a friend who was suffering. That evening, Jake made his decision. But first, he needed to understand exactly what he was agreeing to. Jake spent the entire night reading the military contract. The legal language was difficult, but he understood the important parts. The Coalition wanted complete control over his ship design. They would decide how many ships to build, who could, fly them, and how they would be used. Jake would have no say in any of these decisions. The contract also had a secrecy clause. Jake would not be allowed to build similar ships for civilians. He could not share his design with anyone outside the military. Even helping other disabled pilots would become illegal. This was not what Jake wanted. He had not built his ship to make weapons or to get rich. He had built it to help people who needed hope. The next morning, Captain Rodriguez returned to the garage. He brought 2 armed guards with him. The captain's friendly attitude from the day before was gone. "Have you made your decision, Mr. Miller?" the captain asked. Jake took a deep breath. "I have a counteroffer." Captain Rodriguez looked surprised. "I am listening. Instead of giving you exclusive control, I want to create a joint program. The military gets access to my design principles for defensive purposes only, but I keep the right to build ships for disabled civilians." The captain frowned. "That is not acceptable. We need exclusive access to maintain security." "Then let me propose something else," Jake said. "Any military use of my technology must be limited to protection and rescue operations. No offensive missions, no stealth attacks, and a percentage of all profits must be invested in medical research to help people like Crix." Mr. Miller, you are not in a position to make demands. We can take your technology with or without your cooperation. Jake had expected this threat. You can try to copy my design, but you will fail. The most important part is not the hardware. It is the AI programming that Lisa created, the software that allows the ship to interface with damaged bioneural systems. That knowledge exists only in our heads. Lisa stepped forward. Jake is right. The AI algorithms are incredibly complex. It took me months to develop them. You could spend years trying to reverse engineer the software. Captain Rodriguez was quiet for several minutes. Jake could see him thinking through his options. What exactly are you proposing? The captain asked finally. Jake had spent all night preparing for this moment. I propose a three-way partnership. The coalition gets ships for defensive operations. I get to continue building adaptive ships for disabled pilots, and all of us work together to advance the technology for peaceful purposes. And if we refuse? Then you get nothing. I will destroy my ship and all the design documents. I will make sure that no one else can reproduce my work. Crix looked shocked. Jake, you cannot destroy the ship. It is a miracle of engineering. I will if I have to, Jake said. I built it to help people, not to create new ways for them to hurt each other. Captain Rodriguez studied Jake's face. He could see that the mechanic was serious about his threat. What kind of defensive operations are you willing to support? The captain asked. Protecting civilian ships from pirates, rescue missions in dangerous areas, escorting medical supplies to remote colonies. Any mission where the goal is to save lives, not take them. And you want a percentage of profits for medical research? 20%, specifically for research into bioneural injuries and adaptive technologies for disabled pilots. The captain made several phone calls to his superiors. The negotiations took 3 days. Jake refused to compromise on his main demands, no offensive military operations, and continued civilian access to the technology. Finally, the coalition agreed to Jake's terms. The contract they signed was unlike any military procurement agreement in galactic history. Jake retained partial ownership of his technology and the right to use it for humanitarian purposes. Within 6 months, Jake's small garage had transformed into a major research facility. The coalition funded the construction of new buildings and hired dozens of engineers and technicians. But Jake insisted on maintaining the original garage as a workshop for civilian projects. Crix became the facility's chief test pilot and design consultant. His insights into Zephyrian bioneural systems helped Jake's team develop adaptive interfaces for many different species. Lisa was promoted to head of civilian applications, ensuring that the technology served humanitarian purposes. The military applications were successful too. Coalition ships based on Jake's design proved highly effective at protecting shipping lanes and conducting rescue operations. The stealth capabilities allowed them to approach dangerous situations without being detected, but the crews were trained for protection missions only. Jake's favorite part of the new facility was the civilian workshop. Every week, disabled pilots from across the galaxy came seeking help. Each one presented a unique challenge. A Rigelian trader who had lost her natural electromagnetic senses, a human pilot with severe brain injuries from a shuttle accident, an Andromedan explorer whose species-specific neural implants had been damaged by cosmic radiation. Jake and his team built custom ships for each pilot. No two were exactly alike. Each design had to account for different species, different types of injuries, and different piloting styles. It was the most challenging and rewarding work Jake had ever done. The medical research fund that Jake had insisted on was making progress too. Coalition scientists were developing new treatments for bioneural injuries. Some of the research was based on the interface technologies that Jake and Lisa had created. Within 2 years, several types of previously untreatable injuries could be partially repaired. One evening, Jake stood in his original garage, looking at the first ship he had built for Crix. The ship was still there, though Crix now flew much more advanced vessels. Jake kept the original as a reminder of why he had started this work. Lisa found him there, holding 2 cups of coffee like she had on that first night when she offered to help. "Do you ever regret your decision?" she asked. "You could have taken the military's original offer and become incredibly wealthy." Jake smiled. "I am wealthy. Look around us. Hundreds of people who thought they would never fly again are now pilots. Medical research is advancing faster than ever before. And we are still helping people every day. But you could have had 50 million credits. What would I do with 50 million credits? Buy a bigger garage? Hire more workers? This is better. We are making a real difference. Crix entered the garage, moving easily in his latest adaptive exosuit. His legs still did not work, but the suit allowed him to walk and even run. It was another breakthrough from the research program that Jake had insisted on. The new Mark 7 ship completed its test flights today, Crix reported. Perfect performance. The pilot was so happy he cried. His species does not usually show emotion, but he could not help himself. Jake felt the familiar warm feeling he got every time they helped someone. This was what he had wanted from the beginning. Not fame or money or military contracts. Just the simple satisfaction of fixing something that was broken. My people have a new saying, Crix continued. They say that Jake Miller taught us that broken things can become more beautiful than they were before. The ship you built for me is better than any ship I flew before my accident. It responds to my thoughts in ways that even natural bioneural interfaces cannot match. Jake looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, pilots who had lost hope were flying again. Ships based on his design were protecting innocent travelers and rescuing people in distress. Medical researchers were developing new treatments for injuries that had previously been untreatable. A simple act of kindness toward a crashed alien pilot had grown into something much larger. Jake had learned that the best human innovations come not from the desire to make money or gain power, but from the desire to help others find their wings. The rain started falling outside, just like it had on the night when Crix's ship crashed. But now Jake was not alone in his garage. He was surrounded by friends and colleagues who shared his vision of using technology to help people overcome their limitations. Jake raised his coffee cup in a toast. To broken things that become beautiful, he said. Lisa and Crix raised their cups too. To fixing the impossible, Lisa added. To dancing with the stars, Crix concluded. Outside, the latest group of adaptive ships was returning from a rescue mission. They landed silently in the facility's hangar, their pilots safe and proud. Each ship carried the memory of Jake's original gift. The idea that no one should be told their dreams are impossible, and that the best solutions come from the heart.